He was at our
They're locking us in.
branch for-
I guess that means we're supposed to start.
And then we moved him over to San Juan.
Good morning.
So you probably know Brian from
I do.
Is he in your advisory board?
He is actually on our advisory board.
I thought so. He, okay, I know him, and he always, because he knows I'm a banker, that's his connection, so he always talks about. I assumed he was advisory.
He is. Yeah. In fact, I saw him this week. We had a meeting Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing guys, so trying to learn something about his.
How are you?
Good,
Good. Hi, Vanessa. I'm Ronnie Collins. It's nice to know you. Hello.
Hello.
Ronnie Collins. Hi, how are you?
Camille Stanfield. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Jarvis. Nice to meet you.
Jarvis, I'm Camille Stanfield. Nice to meet you. Okay.
We've already talked. All right, well, we'll get started here. We got one of our panelists ran down to get a glass of water, so we'll hold on for just a second. But the fact that you all are here already puts you in that top 10%, because you're the ones who are willing to get out of bed, come down here, spend a little money, spend a little time, and do a little something extra to try and learn something. And that means that you have a little more on the ball than the next guy. So just by the fact that you're here, come on in, guys. Just by the fact you're here means that you're on your way to success. And we're very fortunate today to have a great panel. And I will get to our introductions in a minute or two. But my name is David Kaiser, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. I run the banking program at Stephen F. Austin State University. I'm a former banker, currently work for the university teaching banking. And I've been doing that now for about 2 years and having an absolute ball taking what I learned in my previous life and passing it on to the next generation. And so it's a good thing. Small business finance is a very complex, very difficult arena. And today we have a panel that's going to talk about how to finance a small business using traditional financing. And there's other kinds of financing. We're going to talk about that a little bit also. We have a whole probably wide spectrum of business owners, potential entrepreneurs, maybe folks who know more about it than we do here in the room. So feel free to ask questions as we move forward. One thing I would ask is if you have a question that is super specific to just your circumstance and no one else would ever be in that situation, hold that till the end. But if it's a broad kind of a question that you think everyone would probably have interest in, please, raise your hand, stop us, and we'll answer it. We're going to be kind of free-flowing today. I've got some questions to ask to kind of get our panel rolling, and then I'll leave it up to you all to keep it moving forward. Is everybody good?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. We're informal here. We've got a nice sized group, and looking forward to getting started. All right. Our panel today, we have three very fine, very experienced bankers with us today. And I'm delighted to introduce Camille Stanfield. Camille is the Chief Financial Officer at Shelby Savings Bank up in Southern Texas. Camille is a CPA. She's the Chief Financial Officer of the bank. She's an SFA alumni. She's married to an SFA alumni. She has a 2-year-old boy at home right now. And she is joining us today to give the perspective of a CPA and a Chief Financial Officer towards small business lending. We have Jimmy Mize. Jimmy is the Executive Vice President and carries the title of Chief Risk Officer for Commercial Bank of Texas. Chief Risk Officer is responsible for making sure that everything goes right. And it's a big job. He's a graduate of the Southwestern Graduate School of Banking at SMU, and he is a 37-year banker. We have Mr. Ron Collins. Mr. Ron Collins is a Senior Vice President with Bancorp South here in Nacogdoches. And I don't know how many years Ron has, but it's got to be
40-ish.
40-ish. Yeah. So Ron's been around a little bit. He's seen a lot of things go really well. And he's probably seen one or two things that go quite so well. So, with our panel here, we have expertise. and they're not going to sugarcoat anything for you. They're going to tell you the way it is. So with that said, is there anything we need to cover before we get started? If you do need to get up and leave, please feel free to do so. We're casual here. Some of you are kind of locked in, but we'll make that happen. All right. Well, our topic that we were given today, in my little thing here says, Track 2, financing, traditional financing. So let's get to definitional. Let's start with that. What is traditional financing, and how does that differ from other sources of capital? And I'll open that up to any of my panelists here.
Well,
Go ahead.
Jump on. Well, I suppose, traditional financing would be more just normal bank type financing that you would see, where you'd have, term financing that would be provided for fixed assets of various kinds that you might be looking to purchase to do whatever you're going to do. And then it would also involve lines of credit that would provide working capital to be able to support the inventory and the accounts receivable and all the operational type expenses that you might have until you can, collect the money that you're selling, whatever you're selling for. So, that's kind of more on the traditional side versus, say, and utilizing bank to be able to do that versus, let's say, borrowing money on credit cards or, borrowing money from an individual or a family or some of those type of things. Normally, those sources won't be able to support your growth forever. I mean, you'll run out of the time. Now, there's a lot of good, startups that started just using those type of sources, but they normally have, a certain amount of capacity, and then once that is over, then it begins to, you have to go out and search for something larger and more significant, to be able to do what you're going to do if you're in a growth mode.
So you'd probably include SBA enhancements as far as non-traditional type things?
I would say SBA, to me, would be more, it's sort of a support mechanism, for the bank to be able to provide traditional financing. We utilize, guarantees, the 504 program, those type of things. Those are connected inside the bank to be able to do it. Now, it's a little, I guess there's some, parts of that you might say, well, that's not, just straight up bank finance. I mean, it's got a little bit of an extra piece to it. But a lot of times we do use SBA to get done what we do. We always think that the deal is a good deal, but sometimes maybe we don't have enough capital or something like that. It may be just a little bit more of a stretch than the bank wants to do without, having some level of support. So the guarantees that are provided there range anywhere from about 50% of the transaction to up to, say, about 80% of the transaction. And that really assists the bank in being able to, maybe do some things that they otherwise couldn't do. On the fixed asset side, that 504 program really works well because the borrower, puts in 10%, and then the SBA funds 40%, and then the bank kicks in 50%. So we got a 50% loan to start with, So those kind of things assist us in being able to provide, what you would consider more traditional financing, because those are the standard type terms and things that you would get from the bank. It would just be a little bit of an extra support for the SBA. But that is in comparison to, say, if you just ran up all your credit card debt, or you borrowed money from the family, or an individual, or something of that nature. Now those sources are out there, but they normally don't have quite the security in ways that maybe the bank would have. The long-term nature of things, the capacity to be able to continue to fund growth. A lot of times, the credit cards, as you max credit cards out, they begin to affect negatively credit score. And so those kind of things, and then it starts to shut down, once several report that, hey, you're at the top of your limits, and that's not a good thing. So all of a sudden they start to drop your credit score, and then it sort of just works against you, a little bit to do it that way. And it's high, it's a lot of fees involved in that, and a lot of high rates. The bank is normally gonna, have something finance-wise of rates between, let's just say, prime and prime plus 2 So today, prime is 5.25. Prime plus 2 would be 7.25. So you should be able to get something bank wise about in that range right there. And I would say in the average is going to be about 1 over. 1 over prime, 6.25 thereabouts is something close to what you might expect when you go to the bank versus a credit card. Let's say 23.9 and maybe 3% or 5%, to access it. So there's a lot of cost there. Individuals, again, they're gonna, depending on what the situation is, family might loan it to you really cheap, for a while, but they may only have a limit of what you can do. And then you gotta ask yourself the question of saying, look, this thing doesn't work out. How much pain financially do I want to, subject my family to?
Part of what a bank's gonna do for you is give you some advice too.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about this SBA guarantee of 80%. Well, just because we can get an SBA guarantee of 80% doesn't mean that we're gonna grant the loan request. We're gonna look at it and make sure it makes sense and that it's in our opinion, anyway, that it's got a good chance of being successful. And as you get into an SBA guarantee, they'll even scrutinize it more. They'll require, sometimes we do like a business plan for an SBA 7(a). You're going to have to do an extensive business plan, and the SBDCs, like located at Angelina College for us, and you're at, you say Kilgore?
I was at the SBDC. There's one in Longview. There's one in Tyler.
But there are different regions have different SBDCs, and they provide a whole host of services for you. But one of the main things is they'll help you prepare a business plan. So when you go and sit in and talk to me or Ron or whoever as far as a lender, you're a step ahead. And again, they're going to help you think through this plan and make sure that you can go borrow from that credit card. They're not going to ask you a question. They're just going to give you the money, and you're going to put it in and really have nobody to bounce your ideas off of and kind of help guide you as your business starts and you start to at least encounter questions, not necessarily problems, but have questions about where you're headed. So anyway.
And the SBDC does that at no cost.
Exactly. There's just free service. Free service. Jimmy's right. The plan is the most important thing you can do, to get started. And some of the other sources of financing maybe don't ask for that, but we do. But it's so important and it's such a service at no charge to be able to develop a total financing plan that anticipates the trade cycle that you have. How long does it take if you're buying the inventory to making the product to selling it to collecting the money? How long does that cycle last, and how much of that money, how much capital do you have tied up until you start to collect, and how does your profit generation, making sure it successfully at a good margin, be able to cover the the amortization of your fixed financing that you have. So you buy your fixed assets, and you got to pay for those over a long period of time. You pay for that out of the profit. So that plan details all that, and make sure that based on the volumes that you project, that you've got sufficient working capital, sufficient cash in the bank to be able to fund that, either with your cash or with the bank's line of credit or any of those kind of things, to be able to successfully operate as long as that plan is anywhere near correct.
And another thing with these plans, and something that we do for our customers, if interest rates, right now we're in a volatile interest rate environment. The Federal Reserve just dropped rates down to 5.25. They're also going to look at what money you have loaned out right now or extended on credit cards. And if interest rates go back up or if interest rates drop, they're going to see how is your business going to survive this volatile interest rate market. Whereas with a credit card or some non-traditional financing, you're not going to get that guidance.
Okay. So that's traditional financing. I'm curious, we're a small group. You're here today for a reason. Maybe by just a quick show of hands, who is here because they want to start a business? We have anybody who's, okay, we got some entrepreneurs here who want to kind of get things started. So you're looking for sources of startup capital, get things rolling with. Okay, cool. We have business owners here who maybe want to grow and expand. Show of hands, got a couple of those, okay. Others Others maybe are just interested in how the world works and how financing kind of happens. Couple of those? Okay, very good. We'll try and answer some of those questions and kind of point you in the right direction. We talked a little bit about the business plan. And I think it's probably important that we circle back to the business plan, because whether you are taking non-traditional financing sources, traditional financing sources, or trying to do it out of your grocery money every other week or something, you need to have a plan. So maybe, Dennis, we could talk a little bit about what you expect to see in a business plan, how to get a business plan done, what works in a business plan, what's superfluous. Maybe you just talk a little bit about the business plan and business planning process.
I will.
I think as far as a business plan, I can't speak as much on the lending side. I'm in the accounting side of things, and I definitely can't speak to the SBA and what their business plans entail. But as far as for us, and I know what we're really looking for, we want to see that you come in, you have everything together. And of course, if it's it's a startup, we're not expecting to see financial statements or tax returns or things like that. But we want to see that basically you have your thoughts lined out. You understand what profits you're going to take in, expenses that you're going to have to incur, and things like that. And of course, we want to see how you plan to get this capital, and if you've gone through other non-traditional sources. Basically, we want to see if you've already incurred some debt. We want to help you try to consolidate some of that debt, and see how is your business plan different than anything else in your market. That's something that traditional banking we incur we come across every day. If you're all selling Coke, all selling the same flavor Coke, how are you going to come out there and be different? What are you offering that's unique to your market that you're going to be able to rev up interest and drive into what you're trying to put out into your marketplace? So I think for us, we're looking for something unique, something that in your area is going to be able to generate the buzz, I guess.
Yeah. So anyways, that business plan, certainly the probably the biggest part of it are your projections. And again, in the days before the SBDC or in a world without them, you would go to an accountant, and an accountant for a fee would help you put that kind of information together. But again, the SBDCs came along, and they'll do that for you. They'll tell you what you need, you'll bring it, they'll compile it, put it together, and then send you out with a plan. But also that plan, it'll have some history about the people that are involved and what the business is, so we can help you think through, like Camille was saying, what your plans are, what your planned business is, and then help me, anything else? Just kind of,
you're going to have your personal financial statements in there, your personal tax returns in there. You're going to have, if the business is operating already, you're going to have some historic information. But normally, if you're starting it up, then you got to start. Here's my start point. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to do it. Here's the projections that show what I'm going to have, what's going to happen to me over the first 3 years or 5 years or whatever. And a lot of times they're not going to make money out of the box. It's just not going to happen quite that way. So you got to have, as the time goes along a little bit, those projections sort of show, hey, when am I going to turn the corner on this based on what I think I'm going to do? So those things are really, really important. So we look at all of that. That business plan, takes all that into account, and then it projects out maybe up to 5 years time. How is this business going to function? And if you can't make it work on paper, then you got to go back and you got to look again, because
it's always easy to make it work on paper.
You got to make it work on paper first. That's just a prerequisite to whatever you're going to do. If you're going to start something, or if you're going to expand and do something different or bigger or better or whatever the case, still make that work on paper. Because if you can't make it work on paper, probably it is not going to work in reality. It's hard to make it work to start with. If you can't make it work on paper, it's probably not a good thing to do. You need to tweak it, do whatever you have to make that stuff work.
What do you have?
So, quick question. From a traditional financing and a model of sustainability in your plan, how important to a banker is that? You touched on it a bit, but 3 or 5 years is great, but do I have a model that's sustainable? And is that something that's really highly looked at from a banker's perspective?
I mean, we certainly want to really focus on probably the first few years, because that's going to be the hard times. That's going to be the time that you're going to have some additional cash needs, and we're wanting to know that you've got a way to handle those. But certainly we're interested in a business that's viable over a long term. But the further you get out from today, the more difficult it is for those projections to really be accurate. By the time you're 2 or 3 years in, you're probably doing new projections and trying to forecast again, what'll be needed in the future.
You know, a lot of times, if you looked at just making loans on commercial real estate, where you go out and you build something and you lease it and you have lease income, and you just everything's really smooth, kind of. That's pretty easy to figure that out. You build whatever it is, you think you can lease it for this much money, it's going to pay the note.
May have an empty time that you're empty.
Exactly. You put a little vacancy factor in there, but it's pretty smooth. Commercial business, got some roller coaster to it. We'll have good customers that I've got. In fact, some of my best customers today, had times when things weren't so good.
Sure.
And so there's some rock and roll there. And normally any startup business, they're going to have times of great success, and then they're going to have times when maybe a competitor shows up or something changes, you take your eye off the ball, whatever the case, and all of a sudden you have a loss. And so the biggest thing is how are you able to react to that loss and be able to turn the corner and come back, and so I see that all the time. Commercial business is just going to be a little bit of that, and you want to have good capital, enough capital to be able to sustain those times when you have to kind of readjust and that type of thing. But again, that plan is probably not going to show that. It's just going to show sort of a continual progression of good times. But you do have to be prepared for things not to go quite to that plan, and make whatever adjustments you have to. That's where your skill comes in to say, hey, I got to find this little extra niche to do to be able to get whatever I'm doing to where everybody wants to get. And I see it a lot.
I've got a question up here.
Oh, he asked.
Did he get it already? Okay, go with that.
It's not really a question, it's more of a comment. I'm Jarvis Brewer, I'm from the Office of the Governor. I help businesses every single day, from having 5 employees to 5,000, so I have a wide range of businesses that I deal with. I just want to add to the business plan, we do have templates. Well, actually the SBA has templates of business plans, which can be a great resource for just a person who's starting a business. How do I even start a business plan? Like, what does one look like? So it can be a good reference tool if you just want to look at what one looks like and customize it. Also, for those who are already running their businesses, kind of hit on it, it may be a good idea to reevaluate what you did when you started it, because it's likely that things may have changed. You may not be on schedule with that plan. You may have found an area within your business that you like to focus on specifically. So it can be good to kind of re-look at that, look at what your financial status is now and what you project for the next 5 years from today.
Can you direct us to that plan?
Oh, yes. So our website is www.gov, that's G-O-V, .texas spelled out, .gov. And you will /business. And then towards the bottom, there will be the SBA business plan link. I can't remember the SBA specific link to get directly to it, but you can go to our link, which will link you to the SBA's page for that.
And Larry, maybe talk to us about when someone comes to see you with SBDC for a plan, what would you kind of like to see them bring?
Well, we see people that just come in with an idea and have done no research, have done not any real numbers on paper or anything. They may have some in their head, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, that people will come in with some sort of a business plan and just want us to review it and help them edit it and just see what we think about it.
Larry, would you just mention and maybe define what the SBDC is? Because maybe people here don't know that.
Small Business Development Center. We are a nonprofit. We are actually located at Angelina College there in Lufkin, and I'm the director. We've been there for over 20 years. We provide free services primarily helping people go into business. That's 80 or 90% of what we do. But we also work with people that are in business and need help with refinancing or at marketing or whatever your need might be. We try to help you. And we do have some research available, not as much as we've had in the past because of some budget cuts, but we still have some pretty good research available if you're looking at going into a specific geographical area. Typically, and we're part of the University of Houston network, by the way. There are 15 centers like ours across Southeast Texas. We're the one farthest up this way. And we cover the Nacogdoches area as well as 4 other counties. So, but typically a client will come in and they'll have an idea, maybe they've done some work, and we sit down with them. And one of the best tools we have is a booklet that we put together about 5 years ago that actually helps you plan a business. And there's a lot of good information about marketing, products, locations, signage, all that sort of thing. And then in the back is your plan, and you put down your startup cost and your monthly expenses and your sales forecast. And we help you with that. And no, it's not totally accurate. There's no way. But we just try to help you put a plan together, like Jimmy says, something that works on paper. And yeah, we can make numbers look like however we want to, but it's got to be reasonable, and we know the banks want to see something conservative. If you show you're gonna make $1 million the first year, how are they gonna look at that? You know, they're not gonna believe it any more than I would. So we try to make it conservative, make sure that the sales and the expenses and the personnel and everything together, it works. And yeah, there's a lot of assumptions in there, and no, they're not always correct. But we do the best job we can of helping you put something together in a nice packet that you can take to the bank and say, this is my plan, this is my idea, and it's your plan, not ours. And so why you have to buy into it and agree to it. But the banks, I think, really appreciate what we do. I worked in banks for 20-some years myself, so we have a general idea of what they want to see, and we're always open to suggestions. You know, if somebody tells us that we need to improve something. So
it's a program that really works. I don't know what we would do without Larry's office, and he will make appointments in Nacogdoches, so
Right.
you don't have to drive.
Right.
You can do it through the EDC office here in City Hall.
or call me direct, either way.
Yeah.
There's another resource that's here at the conference, out there at the SBA table, which is a division of program through SBA called SCORE. And SCORE stands, I believe, help me out here, but I think it stands for the Service Corps Retired Executives. I think that's what that stands for. But basically, they are retired, successful entrepreneurs and executives who donate their time to mentoring and counseling small businesses. And it's a great resource. If you want to start a business, they're great to talk to. But if you have a small business that is in that place where you're starting to expand and things are getting a little bit out of control, they're a resource you can go to talk to someone who's been there and done it, who will give advice. And I found over my career that those are very worthwhile. So SCORE, and they're out here at the SBA table. So stop by and get the card if that's of interest to you. The other thing about it is business plans are difficult to write, especially if you're an entrepreneur and a small business owner wearing 12 hats. The last thing you want to do at 9 o'clock at night after the kids are in bed and you sit down after a hard day, you want to write a business plan, you want to do financial spreads. Small business owners are not great at financial spreads. They're business owners. So that is tough. So you have to put that energy in. You have to get the expertise. You have to get the help. You know, go to the SBDC, talk to your accountant, spend some time getting templates built up so that you can get some good financial models. In my career as a banker, I looked at lots and lots of business plans. I never saw one that said, I'm going to invest a lot of money, work 90 hours a week, do it for 3 years and go bankrupt. I never saw that business plan. So we know that business plans are always going to start off this way, and they're going to progress, and they're going to be successful over a period of time. The business plan is pretty predictable. What is important in a business plan is that you demonstrate that you've thought about your cash flow, that you've thought about what kind of realistic sales progressions you can have. You've thought about what kind of staffing you're going to have to do, what kind of capital assets you're going to have to add, that you really put some thought into the nuts and bolts and details. You know, the numbers are going to look like you're going to make money. They always do. But what's important is what's in that plan and that you thought it through.
Dave's kind of beat around it, but that is the critical thing in a business. You have got to have an accountant. You've got to have someone that can help you evaluate your business. They're your doctor. They're the person that's going to tell you if things are going awry. They're going to be the person you go to. You have a heart attack, have a bad situation come up in your business. So we've had, and Ron and I've talked about this many times. You know, a big business without a strong CFO, or a small business without an accountant that they really interact with, and we just see them flailing and failing, and it's just a terrible thing. And you keep saying you've got to hire the CFO or get the accountant, and they say I can't afford it. Well, you can't afford not to. So I mean, I think if you take anything from this as you're going into business, make sure you've got someone who can give you sound financial advice from an accounting standpoint.
If you have to cut down on expenses to find or to be able to attain that sound financial advice, find the areas to carve out so that you can get that. And I know, a lot of the accounting firms in this area, they will let you come in and have sort of an evaluation, and they can look over whether it's your QuickBooks that you put together. And I know, for instance, at my time in public accounting, we had businesses come in and they would have a ton in this section called Ask My Accountant. Have any of you ever seen that in your QuickBooks file? When you have, $70,000 of your $100,000 working capital in Ask My Accountant, the time to go ask your accountant was before then. But they will take the time to work through that in hopes that they will gain a relationship from you in the future. And a lot of our accountants in this area, they are affordable. So yes, from the beginning, from the grassroots of your business plan, work that into the model. Work that expense in it. As he says, it's just not something that you can afford to not have.
And most accountants will help you set up your books
Absolutely.
in a way that makes it much easier when it comes tax time.
Absolutely.
Because they're planning on doing your taxes and they want it to be legible and make
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
And they don't want you bringing a
A
cardboard box
I-
of receipts.
Right, and it's not all
I
in
can
your
say
account. They, just like Larry said, they get you set up to where you've got QuickBooks in your office and you can input stuff. And then when the old mean banker, you come in for some kind of emergency loan, he says, well, I'm gonna have to have a financial statement. You don't panic and have to go back to your accountant to get that. You just go back to the office and you've done a good job keeping your books. You hit income statement, balance sheet, and it prints it out. And we smile and we go along, we move on down the road. At least we know you know where you are.
Right.
Larry, are you still doing QuickBooks training and stuff?
Yes, Angelina College does offer QuickBooks classes there in Lufkin, at least 3 times a year, at night, 3 hours a night, and it's about 7 weeks, 1 night per week. I think it costs $175 or something like
And you
that.
did QuickBooks with it. It was worth doing it.
You went through it.
I went through it after I took a box of receipts.
It's very helpful. Our instructors.
You got what?
I went through their QuickBooks program several years ago. My Jaguar said you were going over there and taking Larry's class.
That is one suggestion I have, is do not get behind on your QuickBooks data entry. A lot of, especially these smaller startups, you're not gonna have someone that's every day in their life putting data in. But when you get your financial statements from your bank, and one suggestion I do have, my husband actually, he's a banker as well, but he owns a side business. And I told him, I said, you need to keep any ins and outs that you have in your business, try to do it in one bank account. So that if you put money in, okay, this is income, this is a plus. If you put money out, okay, this is an expenditure. And then you just have to decide, where does this expenditure go in my list of general journal accounts. And as he said, your accountant will help you set up those accounts, where a lot of times you're gonna have, if it's a positive, it's going here. If it's a negative, it's going here. And if you have those anomalies, pick up the phone and call your accountant.
Because that's what you're gonna use to really manage that business. That's your ability to make the changes that you need, and not just wake up and 2 years later you say, man, where'd all my cash go?
I've extended my tax return 2 times,
yeah.
and what happened?
Yeah, I don't know what went wrong. You don't want to get yourself in that boat. If you're looking at everything monthly, and you're just tracking it month to month, and you're comparing it to what, how does the actual look to what I had originally planned? That's pretty gives you some confidence, that hey, I'm on track or I'm not on track, and here's where I'm different from the projections, to be able to, what do I need to tweak to eliminate some overhead or to change my margin or whatever the case to get myself on that plan, where I do what I thought I would do. to start.
As opposed to that customer that comes in and says, we say, when we get a tax returns from you, they say, well, I'm about to get 17 filed and 18, we're gonna get on that right away. I mean, and I don't have any company prepared financials for you, so, but I've got a problem. Well, they have no idea, and so, I mean, we can't do anything. Our hands are tied because we don't have any of that information. I promise you it happens. It's amazing how many times that happens.
One more thing to add to that is, when you do pay your accountant to do the books and to prepare the records, make sure you understand what's in those records, what's in those statements, because I have had people sit in front of me and I ask them a question about something on their statements, they have no idea, because they don't understand their own statements. And that's not the situation you want to be in. You want to know those statements inside and out, and have your accountant explain to you where those numbers came from and why they are the way they are.
One more suggestion before we move off this topic. I had a customer of mine when I worked in public accounting. She was just having some issues kind of spotting trends in her business before it happened, and I set up some very, very simple charts for her. And I am such an advocate and proponent, and maybe this is the accountant and this is in me, but charts can tell you so much about the trends in your business. If you made a little more income than the month before, and a little more here and a little more here, okay, you dipped down here. Was that a seasonal trend, or did your marketing slack that month? Is there a new competitor that's coming to your market? Charts can be overwhelming, but there are some very easy charts that you can build in Excel, and you would be very surprised the trends that you can spot in your business, whether it be my expenses are on the rise, okay, I'm spending too much here, I'm spending too much there, or you know what, we're really doing good here, it's because we implemented this new program. Some really, really small, super simple, super easy charts can help you spot those trends before they're detrimental to your business.
All right, I heard the R word a few minutes ago, relationships. Let's chat a little bit about relationships, because I know that this group of bankers are all what we refer to as relationship bankers. They are not transactional bankers. That might be your Capital One down in Houston or something. But here in Nacogdoches, and for the kind of business and activity we're talking about, we're talking relationship. So let's talk relationships, guys.
Okay. Well,
I'm gonna start.
okay.
My turn.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So, if you're going into business, or if you're already in business, the first thing you do is you go and interview bankers. You go look. You go to this bank, talk to your friends, find somebody that can say, I deal with this person, and this is why. And then you go and meet that person. Even if you're just, like I say, even if you're just not ready to start a business, but you're just thinking about it. Now, even if you're just a consumer and are not going to start a business, you need a relationship with a banker, because the Capital Ones, and nothing against those guys, they're fine, a credit card, they're good until there's a problem. If there's a problem, the wall's going to come up with them. If you've got a relationship with a banker that you can go and sit down and talk to, then there's still hope that there's a way to work through things, that I can look back at trends, or Ron or Camille can look back and see what's happened in the past and can understand your story and can help you through the situation. So, you know, not only that, but for advice, like we talked about earlier, for your business, you know, a relationship with a banker is key. And I'll assure you that me or any other banker in our community just lives for an opportunity for you to come in and say, hey, I want a relationship with you. I'm thinking about this out in the future. I'm not wanting to do it today, but I want to get to know you, and I want to build a relationship with you. I've heard about you, or whatever this case is. You know, I like the way you look, whatever it is. I want to build a relationship, and it's flattering to us. And I'll promise you, it'll pay dividends for you in the future.
I've definitely seen that in my board meetings and our board loan committee meetings. If a loan officer, and this is me speaking from the outside as I'm not a loan officer, if a loan officer has a relationship with a customer, you'd be surprised how they go to bat for that customer, and they fight for you, and they say, okay, I understand. You see some weaknesses in this business plan. You see some areas that maybe they haven't fully thought through, but I'm telling you, I've built a relationship with this customer. I feel comfortable. Let me explain to you how I think this is going to work. And it means a lot to the board members of the asset liability committee or the board loan committees that are actually approving these loans, and these ventures, it means a lot to them when their loan officers have that relationship and can tell them, I feel this way about this customer. So yes, those relationships are absolutely key.
You don't get to go before those people. That lender is your representative, so you want to arm him with all the information that you
Absolutely.
can, so he or she can go to bat for you.
They're putting, you know, you do a plan. Well, you know, if the deal is of size, whether it is or isn't, there's normally a plan that we're gonna prepare, that we, you know, elevate, you know, to various, you know, levels of approval. And so we have to be your advocate to be able to, you know, get what we want, what you want. You know, we're working to try to do that for you. So you arm us with all the information that we need. We put our proposal together, and then, you know, we're going to a committee of some sort or an individual with loan authority at that level. And that's how we make, you know, the decision to say yes or no. And so the more we know and understand, and the more confidence we have in you, you know, the better able we're prepared to be an advocate for you. And so that's what we're doing. And I assure you, all the lenders, all the banks, guess what? From one year to the next, they want to see loans increase. They want to see deposits increase. You know, so there's a desire, there's an instilled desire to grow loans, to grow deposits. So we're always looking for opportunities to be able to, you know, bring in a new customer or add to an existing customer, whatever the case. There's an incentive, you know, there for us to be able to make our goals, to be able to accommodate what you want to do too. And we'll come see you. You know, it's not just about coming to the bank. I mean, if you want us to come see you, I mean, we come to your door too. So, you know, either way you want to go, we make customer calls all the time to kind of check on things and see how things are going, and, you know, maybe even talk about, you know, a new phase of whatever you're going to do, or maybe the business, you bring us out there and say, hey, here's where I'm thinking I'm going to put this. You know, here's where I'm going to build this building. Here's what I'm going to do. And it's just a relationship. It's not just if it fits in the box, yes. If it doesn't fit in the box, no. And I think, you know, as some of the large money center type banks, that's what you probably get. You know, as far as if it's good enough to just fit in the box, okay, we'll do it. But if it doesn't, there's not going to be any, you know, maneuver and any massage of things to make it work. You know, we make things fit, and it's not that if it doesn't fit initially, there's some things we probably would be able to take time to do to make it fit. And that's part of our job. That's what we do, you know, as community banks.
And along with that, a relationship means that you put the majority of your financial needs with one institution. You know, I have people all the time say, well, I keep options open. I'm going to do a little over here with Ron, do a little here with you. And you know, it really hurts you, because the first thing that I show my loan committee when I go to them is your relationship with the bank. Your deposit accounts, your loans, your boat loan, your house loan, whatever we've got is that first little block that shows up there. And that says a lot when it's big. When it's one line, it probably doesn't say near as much. So it helps us. It enables us, it gives us a better opportunity to get the deal approved, to get a better rate, to get better terms, to get whatever it is. Relationship for all of us is a huge thing. So think about that. Realize that deposit account that you've got with the credit union that you just have over there because it's convenient or whatever reason, if you bring it to the bank, and it's going to enhance your relationship with the bank. It's going to enhance your ability to get what you need.
And one of the first things we do is ask a client, do you have a relationship with the bank? And if Jimmy sends us a client, we're going to make sure when that plan's ready, it goes back to Jimmy first. And if he turns it down, which he may, then they may go and talk to another bank or two. But some banks are more willing to make particular types of loans. Some like commercial real estate, some like inventory loans or whatever. But some banks, I had a banker recently that sat in my office and say, we don't like startup loans. And some banks are that way. But I guarantee you, I know Jimmy and Ron's banks definitely do look at startup loans. I don't know about Camille's.
You do as well.
Yeah, they certainly do.
Teresa, you got a question?
Well, I just have a comment about relationships with banks, and
Yes.
that is something I learned from my grandmother. We, as a customer to the bank, my grandmother said, don't ever go through the drive-through window. lock that deposit in the bank every single time and get inside that bank as often as you can so that they know you before you have to go ask them.
We're glad to see you when you come in. It's like any customer coming into your visit. You're glad to see them when they come in. It's a pleasant time.
I would say, just last thing on relationship, you know, I worked at Stone Fort Bank for a long time, and that had a 100-year history, you know, there. So I would have customers from time to time come in to see me that had been 50-year customers of the bank. And, you know, I can't tell you how many times that, you know, we might in our discussion say, you know, there was a time back 25 years ago when I really had some difficulty, and the bank stuck with me, you know. And so, you know, there was a bonding there of that relationship that happened, you know, generations before me that they created the bank, that, you know, I kind of had an obligation to continue to nurture and you know, be able to stand, you know, for. And so, you know, that kind of thing is what you're trying to create, you know, at an institution, because it's really, really powerful, and it's something that, you know, will work for you, and certainly help the bank as well, you know, be able to stretch when they need to be able to either stand beside you or, you know, provide additional capital out there, whatever the case, and be really a good partner for you, you know, in that business, you know, and help you.
Right. We have some time. I've got some more questions to ask, but maybe it's a time now to kind of open it up to y'all. If there's any things you want to cover that we haven't covered. If not, I've got a couple things.
Can you talk a little bit about the individual who's coming in for the loan with their business plan? Maybe the business they want to start isn't something they've ever done before. Talk a little bit about the importance of that, or what you'd recommend.
Maybe how to get started in a new business, and
you know, experience. I mean, experience, an advisor, you know, some connection to that type of business. You know, again, for us, we're going to be thinking and listening and trying to help decide if this is a good deal. I mean, you know, we're going to put money at risk, the bank's money at risk, and so we've got to get a level of confidence, and so again, that kind of goes back into that business plan, because if you go see Larry and you're wanting to start cooking chocolate chip cookies and you've never done that before, Larry's probably going to say, you know, have you talked to anybody about this, or, you know, he's going to try to help you with that. But that's certainly important that you gain some expertise in some way.
Yeah, maybe you worked for a company that did that. Maybe you sort of learned, you know, some of the ins and outs of that business, you know, because it is a higher risk. Anytime you're going to do something that you hadn't done before, you don't have any experience in it, I mean, the risk level goes up. Now, it even makes more critical to plan, you know, to make sure that you totally understand whatever you're going to be doing. But there's so many pitfalls out there, you know, on any business that you're starting. You know, the more experience you've got in it, the more, you know, help that is to you.
What you will often see, like someone who works for a company, the people that own the company get ready to retire, and this person has been working and worked their way up just steps in. I mean, that's kind of a natural. That's kind of the other end of the spectrum from the one where the person is wanting to start a business and has no experience. So that just shows you the value. Those typically are not really difficult to do. There's some structure we can put together where that can happen.
at what point after business gets started, when they started it with credit cards and loans from friends and milk money and those kinds of things, at what point will you all step in?
I think we'd step in anytime, you know, I mean, you know, we'd certainly, you know, if you start that way, that's not to say that, hey, that's a fundamental mistake that you can't ever, you know, get out of the trap, you know. I mean, part of what we do is, you know, assist and maybe take that and refinance it into, you know, so all of a sudden you look up and you got $50,000 worth of credit card debt. And hey, I've got started, but I've got it as far as I can go with this, and I really need 100. You know, well, you know, we've got lines of credit. I mean, the first draw into the line of credit would just be to consolidate that debt, let's just say.
But you got some financials, you got some history now because you've been in business.
Exactly.
So yeah, you've accomplished some things. We may send you over to see the SBDC try to develop a business plan at that time, if you don't have, those kinds of things. But
It's never
but
too
that's-
late.
No, that's at any time.
The one thing that you do have to be careful, I think, is waiting too long to do it. Because once you, let's just say that you max out your credit cards, cash is tight, all of a sudden you miss a couple of payments on those. Your personal credit score, it's always a factor, in us looking at how we're going to do things. If you've got an LLC or just a DBA business that you're doing business yourself, whatever the case, one thing we're going to do is pull your personal credit report and look and kind of see how you have managed yourself personally. And when you stack that credit card debt in your individual name, that's just one more thing that's sort of got some pressure on that credit score, especially if you get to the max of whatever those credit cards are. That's a negative in itself. But then let's just say that you miss one 30-day late on a credit card. Let's just say you got a good credit score, 740, and you miss one past due. You have one 30-day past due of a bunch, but you got one that's 30 days past due. Your credit score has just probably dropped by 100 points to 640, which is just on the verge of saying, hey, we can't really deal with that. It's really critical for the management of that. So as soon as you can, get out of that credit card business. You probably want to try to get into the bank business and take some of that pressure off your personal business to keep your credit score good. You always ought to be very, very protective of your personal credit score. And if it is in trouble right now, that's not the end of the world. People see recovery of that all the time. It doesn't take that long. Just like I said on that 30-day late on the credit card and affecting your credit 100 points, it usually will rise back up in 2 or 3 months if you get it taken care of and you keep it that way. You won't have any adverse effects, over a short period of time. The worse it gets, the more time it takes, to kind of get it fixed.
And kind of along those lines, we don't work well under pressure. So you walk into the bank and you say, hey, the IRS is going to shut me down on Friday. You waited too long. So when you get that first letter from the IRS that says, if you don't in the next 60 days, that's the time to come, or before. When you know you're delinquent with the IRS, come see us. Yeah.
It kind of depends on how much you owe us, The more you owe, the more we might have to work with that pressure.
Or I can't make payroll next week.
Yeah, exactly. I'm shutting it down, and by the way, I owe you $250,000. Oh, well, let's see if we can figure that out.
All right. Okay, I think we're getting close to our time. I want to thank our panelists for coming in. Very, very good panelists here. I know our panelists will stick around for a few minutes for some more questions and some one-on-one discussions. I want to thank you all for coming very, very much. We can't hold these events unless people come, and we want to make sure they're valuable. So please complete the questionnaires and give us feedback so we know what we're doing if we're taking this program in the right direction. I heard a couple takeaways today. I heard get your books in order. I heard something about having a business plan and understanding your business plan. I heard some things about relationships. Take the time to build some relationships. What else did we cover today?
CPA.
CPA, get a CPA. Make sure you have a CPA who can do your books and help you with your books and help you understand your books.
Maintain good credit.
And do some modeling. Keep your credit up. Those are all kind of basic business fundamentals. I'll add one in we didn't talk about because it's personal to me, and that is make sure you have your internal controls in place on your financials. Every year at the bank, when I was there, I'm sure you guys see this too, we'll have 1 or 2 or 3 customers who come in with their head in their hands saying, my bookkeeper who I trusted for 30 years has been stealing with me for 29. And have your internal controls in place so that you can keep control of your books and know where that money's going and where it's all going.
And it's normally impactful. It's normally gotten to a point that it's bad.
Yeah,
they don't know because you're not paying attention. You don't see it until that time.
Yeah. So have your internal controls and work with your CPA on setting up some very simple internal controls so that the people you trust remain trustworthy. Other things we should recap before we let everybody go?
I think you got it.
I think we got it. All right. Our panel will continue to be here for a few minutes, so please feel free to ask more questions, and thank you all for coming.
Taking the legal